You notice it in quiet moments. Perhaps it's during a meeting when your idea goes unacknowledged, or in a conversation where someone else's words seem to float above yours. The room doesn't feel empty, yet you feel unseen. Not in a dramatic way, not with loud rejection, but in the subtle absence of attention, of recognition, of acknowledgement. You feel as if your presence doesn't quite land, like a soft note in a room too full of louder ones. Sometimes it is even quieter, almost invisible to anyone else. You scroll through messages that go unanswered, watch someone walk past without a glance, or share a thought that dissolves into polite nods. It's not that anyone intends to erase you. The world rarely works that way, but in these moments, the invisible weight presses gently on your chest. You feel both there and not there, as if your edges have softened against the expectations of others. You may notice it in how you speak. Perhaps you adjust your tone, your choice of words, the very volume of your voice to fit into spaces that seem already occupied. You've learned to make yourself small, not out of shame, but because survival sometimes required it. Because in being quiet, you could avoid conflict, disappointment, or simply the friction of not being what others needed you to be. And quietly over time, the habit settled into your bones. It shows in your body too. A slight rounding of the shoulders, a gentle withdrawal of hands into your lap, a careful way of inhabiting space that says, "I am here but not too much." You may not have thought of it before, but your body remembers these small compromises. The subtle tension in your back, the hollow in your chest, the way your stomach tightens when you step forward in a room full of voices. These are echoes of moments when you learn to exist softly, almost invisibly, in order to feel safe. And the ache is not always loud. Often it is a whisper, a quiet sinking feeling when your presence is overlooked, even when everything around you appears ordinary. You might feel frustrated with yourself for noticing it, for caring, for wanting recognition that never comes. But the frustration is not a flaw. It is a trace, a delicate thread of memory, of a pattern that taught you how to navigate spaces where being visible felt risky or inconvenient. In relationships, this can be subtle too. You may give more than you receive, listening while others speak, remembering details that are forgotten in turn. You may adjust to moods, expectations, and silences, bending without breaking, offering empathy without demanding acknowledgement. Others might see your patience, your thoughtfulness, but not the underlying labor of attention, the quiet negotiation of presence and absence you perform with almost invisible precision. There is a strange duality to this pattern. On one hand, you have learned resilience, a way to navigate without causing waves, a quiet competence that allows life to flow more smoothly than it might otherwise. On the other hand, it can leave a lingering ache. The recognition you long for is not about applause or accolades. It is about being truly noticed, the subtle confirmation that you matter as much as you care, that your existence is not simply tolerated, but observed, acknowledged, and held in the quiet spaces where attention is scarce. Sometimes you feel the ache most in solitude. You notice the absence of mirrors reflecting your inner world, of voices that match your thoughts, of gestures that resonate with your unspoken needs. You may even catch yourself shrinking further, conserving energy in anticipation that others will not notice your absence either. There is a paradox here. Invisibility can feel safe, but it can also erode the soft edges of your identity, making you question whether your own presence matters outside of what you provide or perform for others. And yet, in recognizing this pattern, there is a subtle kind of clarity. You see that invisibility is not a defect or a failing. It is a rhythm learned, a survival pattern shaped by circumstances, experience, and human behavior. It once protected you. It once helped you navigate spaces where being fully visible might have led to conflict, disappointment, or loss. Now, awareness allows you to notice the echo it leaves in adulthood without assigning blame or shame. Awareness gives choice. You can notice when your presence fades, when your contributions go unseen, and consider gently what that means for you now, not as a call to fix or correct, but as an invitation to understand. You may recognize small ways to inhabit space differently, to speak without shrinking, to allow your needs and presence to exist alongside others. You are not required to act. The first step is simply recognition. To see clearly the subtle patterns of invisibility and to understand how they shaped your quiet moments, your body, your relationships, your inner rhythm. You might notice a flicker of relief in this recognition. Relief not because things have changed, but because seeing the pattern gives perspective. You see that your desire to be noticed is natural, human, and not a failing. You notice that your quiet ways are both a strength and a burden, that they were learned for survival, not as a reflection of worth. And in seeing this, a gentle permission arises to acknowledge yourself fully, even if others do not, to hold space for your own visibility in private moments, and to allow your presence to matter, even quietly. There is a delicate softness to this process. You may start small, noticing how it feels to occupy a space without dimming yourself, to speak a thought without anticipation of dismissal, to allow your attention to return to yourself, rather than constantly extending outward. You may notice subtle joy in the act of recognition alone, the private knowledge that your presence is valid, that your voice carries weight, that your body's quiet language is meaningful. Awareness does not demand performance. It asks only that you see and honor what is already there. This process may also invite reflection on connection, not with judgment or longing, but with curiosity. You may notice patterns in relationships where your visibility has been overlooked, moments where you leaned in quietly, or where your contributions were absorbed without recognition. Reflection allows you to trace the threads without blame, to see the patterns with gentle curiosity, and to recognize that your experience is coherent and understandable, shaped by circumstances, learned habits, and survival strategies. And with reflection comes a subtle grounding. You notice that invisibility, while it may hurt, is not a measure of your value. The ache is not a verdict on your worth. It is an echo of experience, a signal pointing toward awareness and choice. You may begin to recognize your needs and responses as valid, natural, and human. You can honor them quietly, tenderly, without shame or urgency. You may even notice the relief of letting yourself exist without the need for constant acknowledgement. Sometimes in these quiet moments of reflection, there is a soft hope, not a promise, not a transformation, but a gentle recognition that you can witness your own presence. You can be your own witness, noticing your thoughts, your feelings, your subtle contributions. Awareness offers a mirror, a way to observe yourself without judgment, a path to self-compassion that rests in quiet, slow acknowledgement. You may notice that your edges feel less frayed, that the ache of invisibility softens when met with understanding, rather than denial or frustration. And so, in this quiet space, you may choose to breathe differently, slowly, with intention, feeling the rise and fall of your chest, the presence of your own body, the subtle weight of being here. Awareness does not demand grand gestures or immediate change. It asks only that you see yourself clearly, honor your experience, and allow yourself to exist fully, even if invisibly in the eyes of others. You may not feel dramatically different immediately. The ache may persist in small echoes or quiet moments, but the act of recognition itself is grounding. You begin to notice that invisibility, while it may have shaped your early rhythms, does not define your whole being. You can exist with both the quiet ache and the subtle comfort of self-awareness. You can hold tenderness for yourself, alongside the awareness of patterns that once guided your survival. And when you allow yourself this gentle observation, you may find a kind of intimacy with your own presence. You notice that being invisible at times does not make you small. It makes your awareness more refined, your attention more sensitive, your capacity for reflection more profound. And in that intimacy, a subtle hope emerges. The hope of understanding, of self-compassion, of knowing your patterns, your rhythms, your own quiet value without pressure, without obligation, simply as recognition of what is. If you return to this space later in quiet reflection or brief moments alone, you can revisit this awareness. You can notice again the subtle ways you inhabit space, the patterns of invisibility you carry, the gentle ache, and the quiet strength in noticing it. Awareness gives choice. Recognition offers perspective, and your own presence is enough. Your experience is coherent, valid, and worthy of attention, first and foremost from yourself. And in this recognition, you may notice the soft relief of understanding. You feel a quiet grounding, a calm acknowledgement that your feelings, your subtle ache, and your desire to be seen are human, understandable, and not a flaw. Awareness alone offers clarity. Reflection alone provides balance. And understanding, quietly and gently, can be enough.